And especially recently that I get into conversations with Muslims. There was one brother the other day, I went to get a chicken sheesh, and he was a Turkish man, and I had shared my story with him, and he said it's actually the fact that I've met you today because I feel like I've been being pulled back to my deen. And he was an addict for 13 years and he nearly killed himself 3 times. And he said, I shared a lot of my story, and he said, Alhamdulillah, I'm so happy I've met you and you shared my story, because I feel like this is another sign that I should now want to be back on my deen and be practicing again. And that was such a beautiful moment.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Jazakumullah khair for coming through.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Your name is Shellbe, which I find it to be a unique name.
Thank you.
What's the background behind the name?
My name is actually Michelle at birth. My name's been Shellbe probably for about 15 years.
Cool.
So Shell short for Michelle, and B comes from my surname Bowditch.
Okay.
But my connection with my name has a huge connection, I feel, to the Quran, because be and it is. So this was like one of the significant signs.
The verse that says,
the verse,
and it will be.
And the continuous words of be and it is. And I also used to meditate. And it's another thing in like that world of meditation, it was just being, be and it is.
Be in a moment.
And when it was in the Quran, that's what spoke to me. And it made me think, this is why my name is my name. That's why my nickname is my nickname.
Okay. So you found something that attracts you straight away, which is the name.
Yeah.
And obviously it's significant.
And then the B verse in the Quran.
Verse, yes, talking about these, yeah.
That was, and I've always said to people when they say, what's your name? They say Shellbe, and they're like, I say, just think of a shell and a buzzing bee.
Yeah.
And when I read the bee surah, that spoke to me, because I felt like a lot of it was significant to my character.
Okay.
And also what the bee signifies in the world and how powerful it is.
Nourishing, building, creating.
And a lot of that I feel like are characteristics of myself.
Cool. So give us a little quick background. So you've been a Muslim, how long now?
10 months.
10 months. So prior to Islam, how long was you thinking of Islam, etc., etc.?
So it took me 2 years to study, come to Islam, be fully sure in my heart that this is the truth, my truth, the truth. And actually woke up one day and messaged Aman Shakil saying, I'm ready to take my shahada today.
Okay. Just what I would ask you, inshallah, firstly, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Taking the time, coming on the Bridge podcast. May Allah reward you with goodness, and may Allah, inshallah, make people watch this and be inspired to look into your life and Islam, inshallah. But saying this, was there, number one, someone that inspired you or guided you towards Islam, or encouraged you towards maybe studying Islam? That's one question. And secondly, what were the main things that resonated with you when you were looking into Islam, that you said, you know what, these things make me realize this is the truth? Yeah. So person number one, and secondly, any points that really resonated with your spirituality in your heart to say, I want to be a Muslim, or I want to go towards that direction?
Yeah, certainly. So firstly, yes, the person is my partner, love of my life. He introduced me to Islam, like coming up nearly 3 years ago now. And at first I was very resistant to what he was showing me, because it was going against a lot of what I believed in at the time. But also there was beauty in that too, because that's what helped me evolve and come to where I am now. And he broke down a lot for me in terms of what I was doing at the time was Reiki healing and working with spirits. So I would actually interact with spirits through tarot cards, through using plant medicines such as like mushrooms. And he would provide me with knowledge and facts and show me videos on people that was doing them things that was being encouraged by jinn, and that spirits were bad. I'm like, they're not. Like, I feel that they're good. He said, but that's what they want you to feel. And he would show me proof to how what I was doing wasn't actually good for me, and I would argue it, and it was like a battle, then that part of us starting our relationship, it was like I was fighting him. So it was creating like this back and forth where we was like in constant debate. But he never like withdrew from me. He knew, like, I feel like Allah sent him to me to bring Islam to me. It was always going to be like a sacred divine union, but I had to release so much. And that was my journey of like overcoming, I guess, my mispreconceptions of Islam. And I wouldn't have been able to become a Muslim with all those things. So I had to shed all of that. And he helped me. And because he's such a firm person, and he's very like logical, factual, to the point, stern, it was, for me, I felt like I was being attacked. So every time I would like argue Islam with him, I would end up coming 10 steps closer to Islam and feeling closer to Allah. And it was my choice to do Ramadan when I wasn't Muslim. So where are we? 2021.
That was so 2 years ago.
Yeah. So that was like one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. Everyone that was close to me would say to me, you look like you're levitating, like you're glowing, like you look so enlightened. And I was just feeling so connected to Source. I felt so pure. I felt so like at peace, tranquil, just like so content. I felt like nothing could affect me, nothing could bother me. Like not eating, I always cleanse, water fast, juice, but it was never like not having sustenance all day. So that was like quite a challenge. But every time it would get to like the evening and I could eat, I'm like, subhanAllah, like, I get to eat. Other people don't. Like, and I've traveled to very poor countries and I've seen like poverty, and I would think about those moments, and I had the blessing of being able to take myself back to that moment where I was in that country, in India or in Sri Lanka, and see those moments and think, wow, like the life, the diversity of this world, and why we fast, why Muslims fast, and that some Muslims around the world now in third world countries aren't getting to eat. And that brought me so much humility, and it connected me more to Islam. And I had more questions. I had more, I was more like, okay, like what else has Islam got to show me? I was hungry for the knowledge.
Did you do Tarawih, which is like the prayers at night? Before you was Muslim?
No, I didn't actually pray at all in Ramadan. I just done the fasting. And I watched Charles pray. And when I watched him pray, I just had this influx of tears where I couldn't stop crying. I was like, and I knew in that moment, I'm Muslim, and I just didn't have, in that time, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't share it with him. I was like, I still got things that I require to overcome in myself, and I've still got questions, and I still wanted more signs.
Of course.
So credit to your, to the brother, to your partner, in terms of some of the things that he was challenging. My take on that would be, look, it's a positive. He doesn't want you to accept Islam having any wrong, like a misinterpretation or misunderstanding. So, dealing with spirits, we would call them jinns. A lot of times people are invoking jinns, worshipping jinns. And sometimes people are dealing with this zodiac signs. So we have a concept called shirk, which means association partners with Allah. A lot of people think, okay, it just means when you worship idols. But no, there's many manifestations of shirk. To the extent that if you believe certain things have power, like these zodiac signs, I'm born in a certain month, it will affect the way I am and my character, aspect of shirk. So he was actually challenging, let's say.
This is one thing he used to challenge me on, is I used to have crystals, and he used to like, this crystal doesn't do anything. And I said, they do, they like increase energy. And I said, no, they don't. I said, but scientifically they do. They're just like a nutrients of a food. He said, but they don't. It's like you're worshipping false idols. And I would think what he was talking about was bizarre. But now I get it. Now I understand the teachings of Islam more, and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and having my belief deeper and my faiths increased. Like, I completely respect that the information he gave me at the time, and I can really see and believe that now, being on the other side. But at the time I was like, no, I'm not having it, you know, because
it's something you've been doing for so many years. You would see it as like there was no negative really effect,
because I didn't feel it. But I'm like, just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not real. And what he's saying, so it was like having to overcome my own ego there.
And sometimes Satan beautifies negativity. We think it's actually good, but it's not for us and for the hereafter. But the other point also, Shellbe, was in terms of, you know, some of the main points that resonate with you. You mentioned fasting, that touched you. Quran, aspects of the Quran, belief concerning Allah, the hereafter, the stance of Islam on materialism, how a family is in Islam. Were there any points like that, the ones I've mentioned, or others that you said to yourself, you know what, this resonates with, this is the truth because of these things? Were there any points like that?
Yeah, there was multiple. I think at the time, one of the main ones was the intoxications.
Okay.
And something I'd always felt like I really wanted and needed to do was to get rid of alcohol and taking drugs in my life in social environment, and it being such a norm. And I always knew in my heart that, like, this isn't normal. This is like, we're basically dampening our spirit every day when we're taking these substances to dampen our own consciousness. But we think we're really conscious beings, because in the communities I was involved in, we saw ourselves as these like spiritual conscious beings. I'm like, but when we're taking these substances, we're not. So the spiritual part of Islam is, the whole of it spiritual, but the fact that it was telling me, and it tells us that intoxicants are not good and it's haram, for me it was like everything that I always knew and the guidance that I needed in my life, and I've craved since the age of like 12, 13. So I was like, this, I know this can save me and pave a whole new path for me. So that at the time was massive, because it was something I was actually doing to stop smoking and stop drinking, and something I kept trying to do and being pulled back into, because they're the circles that I knew and grew up in terms of like going to parties and raves and festivals. So that was like a whole, for example, it like hugged me and saved me. The second one would be
but just on that one though, how was it? Like, did you stop straight away? Was it for you like a time thing?
It was definitely a time thing. It wasn't like, I believe in Islam. It was something I was already trying to do before I
learn about Islam,
come to Islam, and also whilst I was learning about Islam.
And have you seen like a difference with regards to like not drinking? I'm guessing however many months you've been a Muslim to the years before of drinking, like the difference in your life?
100%. I feel like even now, I'd say I've felt quite isolated in myself, but it's because of all the people that I've always known still do them things. So I, not going out into certain circles, I spend more time by myself, and I realised so much of my life was taken up by that and my weekends. But in a state of like, I'm really content with that as well, because my body and my health, and I work in health, that's what I promote every day of my life. So doing something then on a contradiction of then going to get intoxicated, it doesn't work with actually what I do in terms of like fitness and well-being and food. It was actually an escapism, and no matter like how much, we're just having fun, that the because what are you trying to escape? And then I'll do salah and I'll pray and I get exactly what I need, you know. And when I take that time to actually face what it is that's making me want that, and that's just an old conditioning of that I knew before, I'm just going to have a joint or have a glass of wine, rather than pray and ask Allah for guidance and trust in that. It's actually, it feeds the same thing, but it's just, rather than suppressing it, you're dealing with it, you're facing it and you're sitting with it. And that was a massive thing for me, and it still is now. Like, as a Muslim, I drunk probably on 3-4 occasions, and on all of them I felt horrible. Like, On the last time, which was January this year, and I haven't since, and I was like, never again, it wiped me out. It made me feel horrible, and I felt so disconnected, and I couldn't make salah. And I thought, it's not worth it. Like and then that's when I knew how important my salah was to me. And then that's when I really started to take the time to learn my salah in Arabic and learn how to prostrate properly. And if anything, it had a positive on the other side, because it made me see that what's most important. And then the second point was the family. I knew that there was always missing from my family, like that pure togetherness, and wanting that, always craving like a big family and that respect of like always being together. Like my family's quite scattered, and I'm like, I want loads of kids, you know. And I love that Islam promotes family and respecting parents. And since I've come to Islam, I do have a lot more time and respect for my parents. I do watch my tongue a lot more. I do watch my acts a lot more and make a lot more effort and check for my parents. And I'm very more conscious and aware. And it's given me that. And it's made me remove like my pain and hurt of what I didn't get as a young child. I actually think, but my parents tried their best. They done what they could with what they had. And Islam has helped me come to that place. And that's massive for me. Like that was a big healing for me to experience.
Yeah, because the easy option could have been to still hold, you know, feelings towards them, still kind of blame them for maybe certain things that's happened in your past. So the fact that you're able to overcome that and see that, yeah, of course, Islam, as parents anyway, because, you know, again, we spoke about Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim, his father, was a non-Muslim. And in the Quran, it teaches Ibrahim how to talk to his father, and he talks to him in a way of manners and respect, even though he's on the total opposite side of his way of life. He still calls his dad Ya Abati, you know, oh my dear father. I'm not just on what you're upon. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? So Islam is very well established when it comes to family, respect, hierarchy, giving everyone their rights. And I think, you know, the fact that you've even showed that, you know, forgiving your parents for whatever issues they might have been in the past and still appreciating them as parents, you know, is a big step.
It was bountiful, and I feel like I needed that. I feel like my parents needed that, and they deserved that, you know. And then thirdly was, you know, like partner. Yeah, like it's completely controversial, and I'm the same woman, but you would look at me and treat me completely different. And like in terms of, I grew up in this area in Lewisham and around like Deptford, Peckham, and men and boys weren't so nice to me, you know, very disrespectful towards women. Like I got attacked quite a few times.
You're talking about back in the day?
Back in the day, like I'm talking about like what, 14 years ago, 13 years ago. And like, I pray that this doesn't happen to young girls, what happened to me, and like what kind of used to go on when I was young to girls. And Islam showed me what I always knew, but I wasn't taught, and the values of like women, young women, daughters, wives. And I wanted that. I wanted to feel that. And I wanted my future daughters to grow up in that and that respect, and, you know, like marriage, and how what that was given to women wasn't what I interpreted Islam to be. So it broke down more for me, and that brought me closer again and again. They're the three, I'd say, main things. I always believed in one God, and always believed that when science and spirit
you know, what's facts today in 100 years might not be facts, but a lot of things that are known to be scientific facts today, yeah, Islamically, whether it's the embryology, you know, and the moon and the waves and things like this, these are all, you know.
I would add one thing, sister, in terms of, you know, so sometimes Muslim men, some also mistreat women. That is also there. So there's a difference between the difference between Islam and Muslims.
Yeah.
Islam is 100% perfect. Not every Muslim is following Islam completely. So there will be examples of a Muslim man mistreating a woman or women and so on. It happens in Muslim societies, in the UK and so on as well. That's one angle. But the other point that you've mentioned, which is Islam has actually come to protect women. Hijab is not something which is from men, it's from Allah. And like you mentioned, when a woman doesn't wear it and the woman wears it, it's a different perception that men give. Yeah, and this is, the angle of it's actually to respect and get women, earn more respect for women and them to respect themselves. So that's where it's coming from. And if a Muslim man is, practicing Islam to the best of his ability, because there's a statement of Prophet Muhammad, he said in his farewell sermon, he had about 100,000 companions. One of the things he mentioned in that farewell sermon, it's a very famous sermon.
I've read it.
You read it, yeah?
Yeah.
Be dutiful to women. So that's there. So that's really the principle concerning it. The other thing is with science, and you mentioned that. So examples that you could give. But the point I think Abdul Latif is trying to mention which is sometimes what happens is some people, including some Muslims, they'll put science over revelation, whereas it should be revelation over science. There'll be things that sometimes science might say, and we'll have to say, wait a minute, the Quran actually says this, or revelation actually says this. We have to stick to revelation. Our part of our submission to Allah and belief to Allah is to follow Allah's guidance, regardless of whether that sometimes, because look, they say evolution is a scientific fact. We don't accept it.
Yeah.
We don't see it as a fact anyway. It's a theory. But the theory is also quite problematic in the sense that when they actually came up with the theory, it was a theory of racism. Yeah. But we say, look, no, Allah Almighty said human beings all came from Adam and Eve. That's what we're accepting. And we will put revelation over anybody that he's saying it's science or theory and so on. So that was just another point to it. The other point, sister, was in terms of your now journey towards your shahada.
Partner, when about a year and 6 months ago, he was incarcerated, just out of the blue from something that was happening 2 years before that. And since then, he has been inside. And in that time, I come to Islam on my own will, done my own research, come to the masjid by myself, come and took my shahada by myself with some sisters as my witnesses. And it gave me a space to really find my heart led to Islam without him guiding me and supporting me. He's still there and he has always supported me over the phone, through letters, and any questions I have, he's been there, through helping me with my salah, how to do my salah in Arabic, and help teach me the fundamental basics to get me going. But I had that year in when he went, actually it wasn't even a year. It was from when he went, it was 6 months by myself to just delve. And I had such an intense journey. The most dutiful path with Islam that he needed to go on, because he wanted to become so serious with his deen. And I think being in the same environment for him was stopping him from what he always knew. And him being taken into that was the most positive thing that could happen for both of us. But it was really hard at the same time.
Yeah, people watching it would think, how can it be positive?
Yeah, it's crazy, because obviously you have to make the best out of a bad situation. And of course, when you love someone, you don't want them to be away from you, but you have to love Allah first. And I read something the other day and it was like, until you love Allah first, you will not be given your partner, because you have to love what Allah gives you. And he came to me with the message of Allah and Islam to then be taken away. So I had to trust that this is my path. And in all that time, I had so many crazy times and like mad significant signs of Islam coming to me, and he wasn't there for them. I had to have them for myself.
Your own journey.
Yeah, and if he was at home, maybe I wouldn't have been in them. Just know. And it's completely not that. When people ask me, is, oh, was it for him? I'm like, hell no. Hell to the no. It's me. I love Islam. I feel a beautiful connection with Allah.
He might have been the cause, as in the sense of the person who.
But what a beautiful
started it.
cause.
No, but in the sense
you know?
in the sense of he might be the person that introduced it, but.
And that is such a blessing, right?
Yeah,
you know, the fact that he opened that door for me.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm very grateful that he stepped into my life in that way.
So we have a concept, it's like one of the pillars of faith, pillars of Iman. So the sixth one is Qadr, divine decree. And the principle behind that is whatever Allah decrees, there's a goodness in it. So meaning, you know, his incarceration, while it's a negative, but there's a positive in it. That gave you the time and space, gave him the time and space to better himself, improve himself, because he's now, you could say, less distracted. So he's got to focus on what he needs to do, learning Quran, praying, learning chapters of the Quran, memorizing the Quran. You've got your focus and your journey of reflection now. So there's always a positive in what Allah Ta'ala decrees, even though there is some level of negativity.
And the test is there as well.
Sorry.
And I was going to say the test is also there, because the easy option for her, if she wasn't serious, could be, I'm going to do what I need to do. He's not around no more. I can live my life. And then when I see him again, I see him again. But the fact that within that 6 months, you chose to dive deeper into a situation is more of a articulation, manifestation of your sincerity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's both sides. And this is what Allah says in the Quran. Sometimes you may think something is good for you, but it's bad for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may think something is bad for you, but it's good for you. And Allah knows and you won't know. Do you get what I mean? You just have to try to take whatever you think is good and go with it. But you was about to say something.
I can't remember what I was about to say, but in terms of like moving into taking my Shahada, you know, I didn't even tell Charles that I was going to take my Shahada.
Okay.
I just went and done it.
I remember now, yeah.
And
you said you'd tell him afterwards, isn't it?
yeah, and he was like, Alhamdulillah. He's like, what? You're taking your Shahada? He was so happy. I was like, yeah, I just took my Shahada. It's so casual. He was shocked because I didn't say like I'm going to do it. So I'm thinking about doing it based on the experience I had. I think it was 6 weeks before, when I was at a ceremony on a job cooking for a retreat. And this ceremony was the significant moment that brought me to Islam is the truth. And I didn't step into this weekends thinking, send me a sign, like I had done prior, asked for signs and seen them. I went there just on a job, and it was taking ayahuasca. And if you guys don't know what ayahuasca is, it's a medicine that comes from a tea, and it comes from the Amazon in South America, and it's brewed and people sit together and they drink it, and it's a out of body experience where it alters your state of mind. And they use it, and they've used it for thousands of years for healing properties in shamanic medicine.
What?
Shamanic medicine. So shamans, tribes, the Amazon, in Peru, in them kind of, in South America, in the jungle, it's very popular there. And a lot of Westerners go there to take it for healing properties, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual.
Is it intoxicating though?
It's intoxicating you, yeah. So it's actually haram, yeah. So this
When
was...
we say intoxicants, I'm trying to understand now. We're talking intoxicants of clowning the brain, or we're talking intoxicants of alcohol? Even though similarities, but I'm talking about...
It's a drink.
Yeah.
So it's not...
You're not alcoholically running
It's
around
not
crazy.
alcohol, but it's like, it's brewed. So it's just like, you're not running mad, but you're going to be...
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say, man? There's any form of intoxication is
Yeah.
haram, brother, yeah?
No, I'm
Just to
trying to.
clarify.
I hear that, but then we can say, bro, your coffee. We can get into that conversation, man. Let's not go down that road now. Yeah, but in the sense of obviously, I'm whenever I ask, well, not all, but whenever I ask questions, is mainly because I know some audiences will probably ask some questions like
Yeah.
that. So when we talk about intoxicants, are we talking about alcohol intoxicants, as in being drunk?
You drink
or are we
it.
talking about you drink it? Yeah, but it's a different type of intoxicants.
You drink it, but what it does is it does make you have like sickness, because what it does is it goes into your body, but it also can pick up toxins from your organs and draw them out of you. Whether you,
Ow.
yeah, well, this the vines from the leaves, they have healing properties. So they're known to do this for when people have had like brain tumors, when people have got diabetes, people have got certain cancer, and it's been known to clear it. It has been known to clear it.
So there's some goodness in it.
There's goodness in it, but it does bring you out of your natural state of being, and it also makes you see visuals. So in that state, you can see, like, if you've heard of like DMT, it's quite similar to that in an aspect where you're seeing shapes and you're seeing colours and maybe faces. And the best way I can explain it to someone who doesn't know what it is you're basically shown your life in a book, and it like flicks open the book and shows you your whole existence, what you've gone through. And if you've gone through some dark stuff that you maybe haven't spoken about or you've ever shared, and you're just angry and you've got a lot of stuff going on, you'll then react to that. And you might be sick, you might pass the other end, or you might just have people have fits. I've seen people have fits in these rooms.
So, khamr is not just intoxicants. It's not just alcohol. It's any form of intoxication. And even with
Coffee.
khamr used, coffee is not an intoxicant, yeah? But what does Allah say about khamr in the Quran? There's some benefit in it.
There's some benefit in it.
The harm outweighs the benefit. So same thing. If you're losing your mind and you're not...
In that moment,
Yes, that's what it is.
Some people do lose their mind.
fully.
Yeah, and that's why it needs to be in a space where they're like watched, they're facilitated. It's not something you could just like have a glass of wine on your own that people do. You couldn't just do that, because if you've got demons inside of you, it can be very like the bad outweighs the good. In my situation, sorry,
Carry on.
in my situation, you take it over 2 nights. First night showed me some stuff. Second night, I was just laying there. I'd been sick, and I was laying there like, why have I done this? What was the point? What is it actually doing for me? I feel horrendous. I just want to go home. I'm in this tent in the middle of Kent. I feel tired. I feel I've got to get up and cook in the next couple of hours. I can't be bothered.
There's 2 different feelings.
Yeah, I just felt like completely drained. And the lady next to me, who's a good friend of mine, so there's a lot of music happening in there, like people playing the harp, guitar, bongos. There's a big fire in the middle. It's all happening. And
The proper vibe, kind of.
big, massive vibe, like it's kicking off. Everyone's got their own thing going on. You're all in your own seat, bed kind of thing. And she was playing her guitar and she started singing a song. And in the song, it was like, Hare Krishna, then Salam Alaikum, wa alaikum salam. And it was all these is the truth. And I was back to a normal state. It felt like everything I just felt was gone. And I just sat probably for about 2-3 hours until I had to bring the food in and feed everybody. And then I sat in the revelation that this is it now. All of this, what I'm around, has to stop. This isn't my life anymore.
So you're saying in that moment, there was a fire in the middle and you had like an outer experience of going into the fire?
I was completely aware, but it was like, I felt like Allah had shaken me to say, no more. This isn't your path. Time to close this chapter. This is what it is now. And it just kind of shut that for me. And it was like I'd never felt so sure in my life and felt so ready to leave that behind me.
That's crazy.
You know, like people ask me.
What you mentioned in terms of the state that you were in before you got that experience, it's a vulnerable state. You know, you can be manipulated in that situation. So that can't be right. Allah doesn't want you to be in that state. A believer or a Muslim or a human being should be in a state of control. And that's where these things, whether it's, you know, what you mentioned there, or alcohol or other drugs, you know, become impermissible because they take you away from being able to control yourself.
Control yourself.
Yeah. And do you know what was really interesting for this weekend? The lady who was facilitating the ceremonies, she would say, Inshallah. And I thought, And I'd been to something like this before, but of different people. But it's like I was sent to her, and it wasn't just she say, mashallah.
But she's Muslim?
No, she's just one of those beings that is open to all of the teachings in the world of all religions, and she believes all exists, you know, together. And I felt like even in that, for me, was a sign that
She's saying inshallah.
But,
yeah.
On that point to say, you know, it's getting like theological. But
I like it.
The pagans in the time of the Prophet ﷺ didn't actually disbelieve in Allah. They believed in Allah. In fact, there's verses where, you know, Allah would say, if you ask them who created the heavens and the earth, they would say, certainly Allah. It was association of partners with Allah. So people sometimes will use inshallah, mashallah, and they have a concept. There is a God. But you know what? We're going to worship others besides God or with God. That's what the shirk or the association of partners comes in. So, you know, and that happens in Muslim lands too. Sometimes, you know, that is taking place there as well.
Graveyard worshipping and all that.
And others, yeah.
So Karen, you was about to say something again. Imam Shakil just keeps bumping in every 2 minutes.
Yeah, I just wanted to close on that and say, like, that was the significant moment of my decision of that I'm going to take my shahada. And I think it was about 6 weeks after that. That's when I come to the masjid and took it.
Okay.
And then I was traveling the next day to Thailand. To Thailand. Part of me thought, if I don't return to from this trip alive, at least, you know. We've lived before, or I have more to live. Like, my soul doesn't feel like this is just it in this dunya. And I've always had conversations on this before I knew about Islam. And I used to believe in, like, you know, like past lives and karmic souls. And now I always believed that when you pass, and I always found death so interesting. Like, I've sat there and watched people die, and I found it beautiful, you know, to see someone pass over. And because I don't find it like so sad, because I know this isn't it. I'm like happy for them, like that they're gonna go wherever they're gonna go, inshallah. And I've been in that experience, and for me to experience that, I think I was 19 when I experienced my granddad passing over, and I generally saw like a white, like his soul come out of his mouth, like something leave his body. And when he passed away, and I knew that this isn't it. And even like moments when I look back, it's like all parts of my life represent the teachings of Islam and what I've always resonated with and seen to be true and seen to feel right.
Because the body is just it's
A
like
vessel.
Exactly. It's just a vessel, and it's the soul, that's the energy that carries on to you know, to the other life. And Allah says in the Quran about, you know, you was alive prior to that. You know, kids, my sons, the children you're going to have in the future, they're already there. They're already in a spirit world. They're just going to come into a physical world.
What's the name of the world before this world? There's like the womb, but before the womb.
Imam?
There's a
certain rules, regulations? Are they challenging? So that's one aspect. And the other one is, family. Your family, your friends that are non-Muslims, how are they? How's your relationship with them as a Muslim now? So those two aspects, please.
This right now is quite a hot topic for me. I'd say when I told some friends that I'm going to become a Muslim, like my best friend, it was quite a distance. And I guess for them, it was like all the things that we would do together, I'm not going to do them anymore. And there was a little bit of tension, and it was working through my like long friendships and getting that acceptance of that I'm the same person. Like, I'm still me. I'm just, my beliefs are changed, but my values are better. My values are deeper. Like what I offer, I have more to offer, if anything, than I did before. And I think like it's definitely been really challenging, and I guess I've not lost, but I get minimized who I spend time with. Like, you got to own it. Like, own that you're a Muslimah. Like, and I come into that point, I'd say like it took me a good 4 or 5 months to like really own that this is what I do and this is who I am. And the respect I got on the other side of that was like, okay, because when you are firm about something, the people that love you and truly value you will respect you. And I even have like best friends that even like, and they're amazing because they don't have the same belief systems, but will never argue and try to stand down Islam. But even though they don't believe in Islam, they're like, it just depends what you believe in, and just support me and love me for that's the journey that I'm on. And nothing's changed there, and even like my best friend, like for Ramadan, like brought me some amazing books. Because I was like training for the marathon whilst doing Ramadan. So I was hungry. Like, I was disappearing, like 20-mile runs on no food. Like, and my best friend, who was probably the hardest to come around at first, because we used to do tarot cards together, like do Reiki healing together. Like our teenagehood and into early 20s was built on that. That was part of our spiritual sisterhood. So it took a while for that acceptance to come, but the love is so deep. Like, and like when your souls know someone, whether you're Muslim, non-Muslim, and the other person's Muslim, that love always came back. From my family, my mum's been like, she's all accepting, she's been there the whole time. And I've told her, like, I didn't tell her till I come back from Thailand. So I told her probably 7 weeks after I become Muslim, because I was leaving the next day. I'm actually going to tell my dad on Friday. So I've put the date in the diary. I'm taking him for dinner in a public place. Yeah. So make dua.
No shouting.
Make dua for me, guys. Yeah. And I just continue to just own it. And I quite like challenging myself when I feel uncomfortable. Like, I realised how I get looked at differently, especially British men when they see me. Like, I had some guy just stare me out on the tube, like, wouldn't stop looking at me, like, like just angry. And usually I would be like, what are you looking at? But I'm like, I feel like I need to act accordingly because I've got a hijab on. It's like I feel, and it makes me feel different. And I'm like, that's quite interesting. And I just witnessed that. And I'm like, oh, but I want to kind of like...
You can say, brother, you know what? I do Thai boxing as well.
Yeah, like, it's really funny. And like the other day I was on a course, and it was in, I think the football match was on, the Arsenal game. And afterwards, like, all these hooligans, and they were just like looking at me like in my hijab, and obviously you can see that I'm an English woman, like you can see, and they're like just saying all these things, and I'm thinking, don't make me get out my left jab. But no, it's been really beautiful to like notice the differences in me and how I approach situations when it is actually really scary to like overcome the way people see you and not be attached to that, and actually this is who I am. And like the hijab and noticing that, like, I do love wearing my hijab, and I do feel it represents me in a more modest way, and I feel more valued when I wear it, in terms of like when I speak to people in society. And I feel like if I don't have it on, sometimes I won't say salam to people because I'm like, I'm not identified as a Muslim. I'm like, it doesn't matter. So I had to overcome that. If I'm not wearing it, I still make myself say salam alaikum and get out of that mentality, because that's quite isolating and that will stop me from connecting with people. But every time, and especially recently, that I get into conversations with Muslims, there was one brother the other day, I went to get a chicken sheesh, and he was a Turkish man. And I had shared my story with him, and he said it's actually the fact that I've met you today, because I feel like I've been being pulled back to my deen. And he was an addict for 13 years, and he nearly killed himself 3 times. And he said, I shared a lot of my story, and he said, Alhamdulillah, I'm so happy I've met you and you shared my story, because I feel like this is another sign that I should now want to be back on my deen and be practicing again. And that was such a beautiful moment. You know, I just went to get a chicken sheesh, and I was so open.
Was you in a hijab?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't in a hijab.
Just random conversation.
And I just said salam, like, you Muslim? And then they can't believe it. They're like, where are you from? And every time, what I find so humbling and beautiful, that I say I'm Muslim, whether I'm getting plantain from the shop in Lewisham, whether I'm getting a chicken sheets, I get free vermicelli rice, I get free avocado, I get free this, free that. And there's so Muslims that I've met and I share my story with, hijab or not, are so welcoming, and they're so happy for my journey.
So that was the other point. You feel you are supported, valued.
And that's for people I don't even know. So on the side of people that I don't know and I just meet on a day-to-day basis, I'm very open about my journey to Islam. I love talking to people, and I love the shock that people can't believe it, and they don't know where I'm from, and I'm like British, and they're like, when did you come to Islam, sister? And it's just like a hot topic, and I love the response. So in that aspect, I find it so supportive, and then that also shows me like how universal Islam is as a family, as a lifestyle, rather than calling it a religion. It's so universally orientated, and even a friend of mine from the gym, she's a PT, and she grew up in an Islamic family. She's Turkish, and she only recently found her deen again. Well, because she never got taught going to the mosque and stuff. It was just, we're Turkish, we're Muslim, but we drink, we smoke. So she's found Islam and on her own accord. And we always talk about Islam, you know, and we've both come to Islam around the same time again. And we just share. And, you know, talking with her about Islam, and I'm like, I know more than her. And then people respect where you're at in your journey with the deen. So I've been finding it like it's a whole separate part. I feel like I live 2 lives at the moment, and I'm trying to like bring them as one. You know, like I wouldn't go and meet my dad and have a hijab on because he doesn't yet know that I'm Muslim. And I think that pulls me back from being fully embracing, wanting to wear it more. And, you know, like I'm very conscious of that when I do go to the gym, it's hard for me to get out of the clothes I've always known to train in. Gym outfits, you know, they're figure hugging, and wearing a hijab in the gym, it's like sweat. And these things is like, for me, I'm trying to overcome and find a way to be comfortable doing that and still respect my relationship with Allah and what Allah is asking of me for the better good of myself. And that is like, even though I'm aware of it every time and I'm thinking about it, so I'm like, okay, if I'm thinking about it, I actually care more than I think I do.
Of course, you're conscious of it.
Very conscious. And I guess that's like seeing that. It's like, okay, what steps can I take to get closer to making this happen and not being too hard on yourself. And I think trying to do everything at once can become very overwhelming. And I've tried to do that many times, and it's pulled me back. So it's just like being very like gentle and taking one step at a time is kind of where I'm at right now. And I've actually come quite far, I feel, in 10 months in doing my daily salah. I'm doing 5 since Ramadan. I've done my salah 5 times a day.
Inshallah.
And not drinking alcohol and being like content with not drinking alcohol, being around people drinking and feeling like, actually, I'm not missing out, leaving that situation and being like, actually, I'm happy that I'm sober. You know, being around people smoking and being offered it and being like, I'm fine, thank you. You know, and knowing that I want to go and pray. And if I'm intoxicated, I can't go and do that. And then thinking, oh, like, this is a level up because you actually want to go and make salah now because that means more to you.
And that.
Yeah, and being offered food and I really want it, but I'm like, it's not halal. And actually standing strong in like, no, I'll just have everything else but the meat. But I'm like, I'm a protein fiend and I really want the meat. So it's like, there's so many parts of it that I'm like, you've took a lot of steps and now I'm really strong in them steps. And now it's just, the taking them bigger steps to, you know, tell my family, make my niqab, and like solidify them things are like the last couple things right now that are really I'm ready to do.
You said niqab, you mean nikah?
Nikah, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're gonna start wearing, because niqab is the...
Yeah, sorry.
You're gonna start wearing that, yeah, mashallah. Move from no hijab to hijab to niqab. But mashallah, so nikah to get married, inshallah.
Yeah.
Inshallah, that's
My aspect of personal training is more for the mind. So I've trained in mental health for exercise. So focusing on the fundamentals of like feeling good, overcoming anxiety, body dysmorphia, people that have maybe like bipolar, using exercise as a form to actually be aware of when you're having these little while outs in your brain, yeah, and you know, actually release rather than medication. Not that I'd ever say to someone come off medication, but I can go and train and have that release and start to get to know myself and know what my body needs. I just need to get out of my mind. And I work with people on that, like very like casual, it's like casual therapy through training, like talking about how you feel and like getting into the body, like where things might feel, where you feel anxiety in the body when you're training, using strength training to do that. Okay. Do a lot of boxing and pad work with my clients as well.
So this is a business?
Yeah, so I launched my business, Wompfidence.
What's it called?
Wompfidence. It means confidence. Yeah, so it means women that know themselves or want to get to know themselves physically, mentally, spiritually and emotionally.
Okay. So you have Instagram for that?
I do have Instagram for that.
Okay,
and yeah, so it's mainly with women. I have trained men as well, and using like the mental health, the boxing as like a real release to face that and come to that. And obviously the food complements it because I can give people nutrition plans, dietitian plans, give them a base if they want to improve their food with just basic recipes, if they want to track their micros depending on their goals. But I'm not a personal trainer that focuses on, you know, like weight and as such and like what's on the scales. It's more like performance. How do you want to feel, you know, like what do you want to, what gets you up in the morning?
In essence, you're still kind of doing healing, but in a more, I would say Islamically now, more legit way.
Yeah.
In the sense that these are actual physical things you're giving them, things that they can take home, practice, and they can see results in that. Whether it's the food healing, whether it's the gym healing, whether it's the anxiety, finding out what pain positions there are. That's how I would kind of class it.
Yeah, I've had some really like beautiful transformations with clients. Like I've seen them transform entirely in 3 to 5 years. Some clients that are still with me now, and they're completely different people in terms of they had no self-love, they had no self-value, they didn't know that they could do the things they've done because they didn't believe in themselves. And it's like they didn't want to have abs and biceps, they just wanted to have self-belief and confidence. But they thought that these physical things were going to make them feel that, but really they needed to go deeper.
The inner work.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I offer is like habit, like learning how to do like your basic daily habits, doing check-ins with them, are they doing that, and working with them like very closely, which is actually like a blessing to be able to have that influence in someone's life, that they trust you to do that.
Of course.
Yeah, so there's something that I do daily, weekly, retreats, working with food. So I'll cook for people, like anything from like, I've cooked from 10 people up to 130 people over a weekend. I have a team that I take with me. And we cook and we just throw it down. I'll introduce the food. We'll talk about what the food does for the body. So like grounding foods. When we like start the retreat, like detoxing the body. Like I've got one coming up in September. So it'll be obviously like coming into autumn. So a lot of warming foods. And they'll do like yoga throughout and a little bit of sound healing. And then they'll come and I'll feed them up for 3 days, which I love. I just get into a really beautiful flow state. It doesn't matter if I've had an hour's sleep or 10 hours sleep. Like I'm so happy when I'm in the kitchen and just creating food from my hands.
So that's your two things, like cooking business and PT business.
Yeah, they're the two main things
Okay.
that I lead with.
Do you have a business name for the cooking one as well?
I used to have a business called She Gone Prep, and I used to do meal prep delivery services. So all around the area, I used to deliver to people's houses, their offices, and feed them up for like people that didn't want to cook for themselves. So I ran that myself for like a year, but then I got so busy, I couldn't do it by myself because I was cooking in my kitchen, and I was getting like 70 boxes ordered a week, and it was just so intense. You need like a whole system. So now I just do it by word of mouth, and people that kind of see me doing my thing. Recommendation.
It doesn't become overwhelming.
Yeah. So I'd love to take it into a space, have like a cafe, a space where I could train people, have a room in the side. I recently just qualified in like stretchologist. So it's like using the body, like helping people stretch out so they can like take their body deeper. So working a lot with recovery. So athletes or people that train a lot and just need like deeper recovery. So I did that a few weeks ago. So I've just kind of brought that.
Similar to like yoga, but slightly different?
Yeah, it's slightly different. It's very much like assisted stretching. So you manipulate the body.
Okay. So you can show me how to do splits or something?
You'd have to work up to that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of...
Me and you joining, man. Yeah. Splits in 5 years or something. But cool. And obviously we've gone through a lot of your what's happening today, you know, what you're going to do in the future. Just a little background about your previous soul. Where you born? Where was you raised? Maybe you can just go through a little bit that someone might be interested. Like, where was you raised? What was your background? What school did you go to?
I was raised in Southeast, around like Lewisham, Eltham area. Went to school in Eltham. Grew up around this area. I was very much kind of like on the roads as a teenager. I was just out, you know. I was very much seeing a lot of things that I probably wouldn't want a young girl to see from the and you know, getting substance out of your life. And I've always felt that that's a massive part of my journey, because what was shown to me very early on, and I guess like if I had Islam from a young age, things would be very different. But then would I be the same person?
Of course.
Probably not, you know. And it has shaped me into the person I am, and I think that has formed why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about moving the body, you know, because I am someone who needs goal-orientated things, because I can get mentally in my head and it can get too much. And that's where Islam helps me with my salah. That's where training helps me with getting into my body. And I do what I do is because it's helped me so much. You know, like feeding my body with health is because I never knew about like healthy foods when I was younger. I wasn't shown about that and the properties of food and what it does for the body and being able to prevent that and how you feel so amazing. And I guess I took all the things from an early age of being like, I was drinking alcohol from the age of 12 up. And I had my stomach pumped when I was like 16. My liver had white spots on it. I got told before my liver was fully formed that my livers could be damaged.
Crazy.
So I had a lot of scares. And, you know, I think now looking back, I was very vulnerable. And I just want to ensure that everything I do now would always prevent, like, create the safe space for my home and my future children to grow up in what I am doing now and have like the abundance of health, wealth and, you know, faith that I now have the blessing of having in my life because of what I experienced. Yeah.
But the crazy thing about life is sometimes you have a family, like you want to have that family, which is healthy, abundance. But then if you look at the upper class, the middle class, they have a lot of issues with drug addiction, with alcohol,
definitely.
with all of that. Yet they come from a home that in essence, all of us would want, which is food, healthy. Mum is probably healthy. The dad is making money. You live in a great house, yet your kid still goes into that field. But then you've come from a different field, which is poverty in that world. And then now growing up, you've gone the total opposite of what you was raised into. And this is for me anyway, the way Allah puts every human being in different circumstances. And then it's for you when you get to a certain age, which is conscious age, obviously, which is whether it's puberty age or a bit older, that you come to a conclusion of what the right way is. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that you've gone through those hardships in your life and now you're an advocate of this lifestyle just proves that in every circumstance that we're born in, we have the choice to change at any time when we get to a position of consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think with that, it's like what I kind of see around me, like what people are putting themselves through and like addiction and the choices they make every day and learning lessons from them, you know, seeing the such a huge thing now and why there's so much, especially for mental health for men, and they take a lot of drugs and to suppress it. And that in itself is like, and it's a real issue.
Of course.
Maybe not in the Muslim community, but for men in society and for so many reasons. And I know so many men personally and it hurts me. And like the relationship I'm in now, I feel so blessed because before, like I've been in relationships where there's drugs being taken, and to have a relationship that's completely sober, where you have like deep conversation, you can sit up till 6 in the morning just talking and there's no highs involved. It's like, wow, this, you don't need anything, you know, it's pure connection. And when you are so like in tune and with yourself, you know, and you have that deep level of like, I guess, openness to faith, to yourself, and it also overcoming these things like myself, you know, like with intoxicants, you appreciate these things so much more because of what I've always seen anyway and what is happening in the world. And that's when I say I live in two worlds, because I see this every day. And then also I have the Muslim community now and how the circles I spend my time in there. And I'm a bit of a chameleon because I can go and put myself in any environment and multiple different, you know, like faiths and environments.
In the terms they understand. So for example, like you just said, the streets, go into the streets, you speak to the, you ain't gonna talk all posh, like thou shalt say not thou, like, it don't make sense. So you'd speak to the people, how they
understand,
exactly,
and so they can
exactly. That could be how you dress, that could be how you speak, your persona, your character, all of that. Do you get what I mean? And I think, like you said, because you've come from a particular background, it allows you to be this person who's confident, maybe also empathetic, sympathetic to people in certain situations. And so all our experiences are there. Sometimes, yes, they're negative because they come from a negative background, but they can be used for a positive thing. They're transferable. Do you get what I mean? Like, just because you went through a negative thing doesn't mean you can't transfer that into a positive.
Because it all exists.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful conversation, unless you had anything else to add as usual, man. Yeah, no more. No questions.
Thank you for coming, sister.
Thank you for having me.
No, I think it was insightful. And Jazakumullah khair. I think second sister we've had.
Third.
Oh, yes.
May there be more.
Yes. We had a gym sister as well, mashallah. Yeah, so it'd be probably good to link her. She does gym PT.
She knows sister. Sister Clara.
Clara, yeah. We spoke, yeah.
Okay, yes. So you lot can do your own thing. But yeah, Jazakumullah khair. Final thing we usually just ask, like a final reminder, even though you've given many different advices already, something that maybe sits well with you that viewers can benefit from, hopefully some sisters, even brothers can benefit from.
I would say my biggest piece of advice is to don't, like for what I done and then overcome, was don't sit in isolation. Go to your local masjid, like speak to people. You're not alone. Like the Muslim community are so welcoming, and the sisters are so welcoming. And when you actually open yourself up to it, you take one step to Allah and Allah will take 10 towards you. And there's things that have happened to me since becoming a Muslim that I never believed was possible. And I, hands down, fully believe that that's all in the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just open yourself up and overcome the fear of being judged and not being heard, and of the unknown. Walk into the unknown, because what's on the other side has lessons, teachings, and growth, and there's always light there when you feel the darkness inside.
Jazakumullah khair. That's a good way to finish.
Thank you for having me.
For everyone watching, we'll catch you on the next one. Wassalamu alaikum.